Hello, hello, hello. It's Aurelia Davis, the educator's educator, coming to you on a Wednesday afternoon in Chicago. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's had a nice week so far. Teachers, you've gone over a big hurdle so far. You've been able to do you get your report cards and things out of the way, at least within Chicago and Illinois, and I believe some of the other states have did that already. So that's the big hurdle. Your half year is on its way. The half year is on its way. It's basically here with your holidays, the holidays coming up, the Thanksgiving holiday, and then of course the Christmas holiday when you'll be getting some things together for your students to take home so they can continue to learn. But this afternoon, this evening, I wanted to really tap into. I ran across an article, and it basically stated why some teachers continue to struggle with classroom management. I'll say that again. Why some teachers continue to struggle with classroom management. Well, that word classroom management is very dear to me because I found out with my own career that as soon as I was able to conquer classroom management, then I was able to teach. Let me repeat that. As soon as I was able to conquer or be successful with classroom management, then I was able to teach. Well, this particular author, I'm not going to necessarily say his name, but he gave about five reasons as to why teachers are still struggling with classroom management. He said one of the statements, they are confused. Okay. They're confused. They're lazy. I was very offensive to that. They're mistaken. They're full of excuses and they're chaotic. Chaotic, meaning that basically these are the excuses that teachers use to not have good classroom management in place in order to be able to teach. And like I said before, that is a strong component for me because I believe if unless you have good classroom management, you cannot teach unless your classroom is managed in a way where you can handle what's going on, you cannot teach. You're not going to be able to accomplish anything. I just believe you me, it doesn't work if you can't control your classroom. And when you're thinking about classroom management, just think about management, period, managing your life, managing your house, managing your family, managing your extracurricular activities. All of those things have to be managed. And if you think about how you manage those things, then you can easily put a classroom management program in place. One thing that I have been approached about as far as classroom management is concerned is that some teachers that I used to mentor, they wanted to know was there one specific way to do classroom management. And I had to literally say no. Everyone has to set up their own agenda so that the management plan will work for them, which is very important. So my school doesn't look like your school. My classroom doesn't look like your classroom, even though we may be teaching the same grade. But your personality comes out with your classroom management. And I would even say that because classrooms are not as structured as they used to be, that management system changes quite a bit. So you're looking at teachers, say for instance, I'm going to go all the way back, but when desks were nailed to the floor and you couldn't move things around and whatever, and children basically sat in straight rows with six rows across and about eight seats or eight desks, one behind the other. That was a managed environment. That was a managed environment for the simple reason that it allowed the classroom structure was in place as far as the environment was in place. So once the children sat down, then they were in place, if you understand what I'm saying. In other words, the chairs were not being able, you couldn't move the chairs, you couldn't move the desk. So as soon as the children sat down, then they could not move. They had to stay where they were. So the aisles were clear and you were able to get around and do different things like that. Well, that no longer exists. That no longer exists. We have gotten away from the desk and chairs and straight rows and things like that. Now you're working with movable furniture, and even some classrooms even have lounging furniture, pillows, and things where the children are basically in an environment that makes it easy for them to learn. They're comfortable. They're comfortable within their classroom environment. But even that, even the comfort in that classroom environment, there has to be some management in place, because other than that, it can go crazy, helter skelter, as that word comes up, or be very chaotic, very chaotic. Um, he said that when the author stated that they're confused, you need one classroom management approach. I do agree with that. You need something that's basically you're going to use, and you're going to use it on a regular basis. You're going to set it up. There's going to be trial and error, but at the same time, if you keep working on it, you'll be able to do whatever need to do in order for your classroom to be managed. He said lazy. He said, sorry, but it's true. Some teachers don't want to put in the modest effort to learn a single approach. I can say that too. I can believe when I first started teaching, I would try different approaches, and basically those different approaches would go from day to day, hour to hour. And I had to come to the terms and realization that every day of the week is not going to look the same. So every classroom day is not going to look the same, for the simple reason that you have recess and lunch, and then you have different resources that the children are going to. Children are in and out of the room on a regular basis throughout the day. So it's just like a store. They're coming and going and coming and going. But in the same instance, because the children are in and out like that, you can still find a way to manage your classroom. One thing I found out to be more important than anything else is that once the morning has started and you've set up like a regiment for the children to be doing some quiet work, so on and so forth. And what has a tendency of happening is that when somebody comes into the room, basically it disrupts the whole morning. It can disrupt the whole morning. Well, the training that comes in with that is that you allow your children some restlessness when they are disturbed, as far as somebody coming into the room and disturbing what they're doing. But you have to get them back to where they were. You're going to have, and you don't want them sitting there like little soldiers and little sticks, stick people, not moving, not saying anything. You want them to be able to exert that energy, because that's going to help you get through the day. That's going to help you get through the day. And you have to realize children have a lot of energy. Young adults have a lot of energy. High schoolers have a lot of energy. And if you are a teacher, you should have the energy to match their energy in order for you to be able to survive. Another thing, think on your feet. Say, for instance, you started the classroom that morning. You got them, your children are working in quiet groups or busy groups. They don't have to always be quiet. They don't have to always been a silence going around, but they're working in quiet groups. And then all of a sudden there's a fire drill. You have taught the regiment as to what happens during a fire drill, and those children get up and they move to it. They move to it and they get out of that classroom. You take your attendance book, you do whatever, close that door. But then after they come back, then you as the educator, you as the manager of that particular classroom, okay, young boys and girls, what were we doing before the fire drill happened? Okay, all right. How many of you are finished? Then you start having a dialogue with them, saying, okay, go back to doing what you were doing. If you have finished, then let me know. And that's how you start thinking on your feet as far as moving them forward or bringing them back to where they were. But that's management. That's still considered management. Management does not necessarily mean it's quiet all the time, 6 hours a day. You can't do that with children. It's not going to happen. And you don't want that type of a classroom. Now, if they're engaged and they're involved and they're learning, then that's good. But if it's to the point where they are not learning, then you have to just sort of change strategies right in the middle of a lesson, or change strategies right in the middle of a day. Another thing I found out, I had to recognize triggers for my classroom not to be managed. In other words, I found out that during like the holidays, the children were going to be hyper and they're going to be excited about different things and so on and so forth. So I didn't try to have I had some control over my classroom, but I wasn't so strict and rigid that I could not handle what was going on. They were excited, so I would give them some activities that would, sort of lessen the excitement. I would keep them sort of busy, let them work on their own individual product projects. Did not necessarily find that this was a time to be trying to teach something because most likely it was not going to stick. So during the holidays, coming into Thanksgiving, especially coming into the Christmas holiday, or even coming into spring break, I found out this was not the time to try to teach do some real hard teaching, for the simple reason that the children were not going to be following along with that. They were not going to be on it with me. So to save myself some stress, I kept the curriculum very light, and because we had gotten some other things done before, or either thinking about doing some things over the holidays that they can take home and work on individually, that was also very good. That was also very good. So I'm saying classroom management is a flexible entity for teaching. It's a flexible skill for teaching that you have to really be able to think on your feet. You have to be able to feel the vibe of the classroom, see exactly where the children are. There were some mornings when children would come in and they would, especially on Mondays. I found this to be true on Mondays. On Mondays, they seem to have been a little bit more restless. Not restless. They would seem to be a little bit more calmer. And when I discovered what they were doing over the weekends, of course, by the time they got back to me on Monday, they were tired. So I would do quiet activities. The structure of my day from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday would start the same unless there was a resource interruption. But basically, my mornings would always start the same, and they would go to a certain time of the day, and then we would move on. After I kept doing that and starting and being consistent with my day, and me knowing what I had to go in the first thing in the morning and teach and do, my students were able to regulate themselves into that habit also, which was very good. So some days when I wanted to do something different. Most likely they were going to be taking out their books if they were doing a reading assignment, or if they were doing a math assignment. They would come in immediately and start doing things and trying to get ahead of me, which is good. That's okay. I don't have a problem with that. And so regulating them within a period of time, as to what's going to happen on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Friday was usually our free days because if they have worked so hard during the week, I would basically be a lot more flexible, do some art, do some coloring, excuse me, and just sort of give them a little bit more freedom, play music in the background. And that set my environment, that set my classroom management in place. I was going to say something else about it. I did feel, oh, I know what I want to say. This does not happen overnight. It does not even happen over a year. I found out that a good classroom management plan, if you are consistent with it, will probably take you a year to develop it, and then a year to keep it and keep it in place. And what happened with me is that the first 2 years I tried, I was just all over the place, just hopping from place to place and trying to do different things, and none of it worked. And what ended up happening is I had to change. Then I stopped and started thinking about what did work and what was not working. And I started setting my schedule up to follow what my children needed in the morning, what they needed in the afternoon, and definitely what they needed by the time it was time to go home. And I found out that it worked. It worked. It worked. It worked. And I was able to be successful and stay 30 years because of my classroom management. So just want to share some things with you. Um, and teachers out there, what I'm saying is that something, if it has not happened yet, you need to start working on it. You need to start working on it now. Take all of those ideas of, and another thing, let me add this. It doesn't make a difference what grade it is. It does not make a difference what grade it is. You are the person in standing in front of a group of individuals, giving them your attention, or getting them to do something. And that's something that's a management style that you have to do. You are a presenter. And in order for them to get what you're presenting, you have to manage how you're going to give it to them. Simple as that. You have to manage how you're going to give it to them. Well, not this is one topic that we definitely will not have to end anytime soon. It's ongoing. It's an ongoing struggle. It's an ongoing putting things in place that will work and then finding out things that don't work and so on and so forth. One more thing I would like to add. I found out that my management style would change slightly from year to year if I had a heavy boy present in my classroom or a heavy girl present in my classroom. And what I found out is I found that I wanted to give the girls more things that they would like to do, on those days that we were had a little freedom. And then I found out there were things that I wanted for my boys to do that would give them a little freedom. And that doesn't mean that you change your whole management plan. That just means you do some inserting excuse me, you insert some things that basically will just sort of enhance your teaching and enhance the students and give the students more opportunities to do things in the classroom. Well, that's it. But in the meantime, if you have not bought your STEM learning cards, go over to my website, aureliadavis.com. People are getting these and they're being very excited about them. So I'm still excited about them. So if you haven't haven't gotten your STEM cards yet, they are in stock. I do have them, aureliadavis.com, and order your STEM cards. I'd love to get you a box. Take care and have a great one. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.